the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime, but that's a little bit long.
The very same time we have President Biden down in Brownsville, Texas, which was an obligatory visit by him. He'd never been to the border. In fact, I don't think he's on the border itself right now. He's in some sanitized location in the Brownsville area, not seeing the razor wire that Texas has put up around Brownsville.
Playing politics with this issue. Instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill.
Some of what was said yesterday by former President Donald Trump, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and President Joe Biden when it comes to the border issue, and even Governor J.B. Pritzker talking a bit about the border issue yesterday as well. Welcome back, Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and don't forget, if you're watching live, you can join us in the Discord. So yesterday, you had high-profile speeches close to the southern U.S. border, video of Trump waving at individuals wanting to cross over the southern U.S. border. It's fascinating. But you had President Joe Biden, as we heard Texas Governor Greg Abbott there say, is in a sanitized area. Well, let's go ahead and hear just some of what the two individuals who apparently are the ones that are going to be the major party nominees for president. Here's Donald Trump at the southern U.S. border yesterday talking about, well, his plan on how to deal with all of these things.
Walls and wheels, I always said. It's one thing never gets obsolete, a wall and a wheel. Everything else is obsolete about 2 weeks after you come up with it. And we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers to take care of our border. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and now outside of this area where Texas has done an amazing job, and in a pretty short period of time, they're going to have it all covered. They have just been incredible. The operation that they showed me is nothing less than incredible. And I'll say this, it's a military operation. I mean, we have this is like a war. It's a military operation. So we had remain in Mexico. Remember that? You can't come into our country, and Mexico agreed to it. And I'll tell you someday, I'll tell you why. Safe third agreements, asylum bans, Title 42, and rapid removals. But Title 42 was so important, rapid removal so important. But the best was remain in Mexico. You stay in Mexico. We had catch and release in Mexico. We had catch before that. It was catch and release a criminal, and they released him in the United States. We had no more catch and release. Our catch and release was we released him in Mexico. And if you broke the law, we caught you, we deported you, or we did something else. But we were doing a great job, and that's where it stood. And then we had an election that we ended up getting many millions of more votes than we did. We did much better in 2020 than we ever even thought about doing in 2016. And very bad things happened. And from that moment on, it was a whole different ballgame in Texas and all over. But the governor in Texas picked up the ball, and they've done an incredible job. And I'll tell you, it's an honor to be here.
And Trump talking about Texas Governor Greg Abbott and all the things that Texas has done to essentially give more authority to state law enforcement in dealing with these things. We'll talk about Illinois in a bit and what Illinois has done. Governor J.B. Pritzker speaking to a group of criminal justice reform advocates yesterday, and he talked about the asylum seekers that he says are getting state assistance to go through their asylum process. But regardless, more numbers from former President Donald Trump about the migrant situation.
Last year, almost half of all ICE arrests were criminal aliens charged for more than 33,000 assaults, 3,000 robberies, 6,900 burglaries, 7,500 weapons crimes. This is all migrant crime. 4,300 sex crimes, 1,600 kidnappings, and 1,700 homicides and murders. These are the people that are coming into our country. And they're coming from jails, and they're coming from prisons, and they're coming from mental institutions, and they're coming from insane asylums, and they're terrorists. They're being led into our country. And it's horrible. It's horrible. And, I know many of the leaders of these other countries that are doing it. And it's not just South America. It's all over the world. What he's done to our country is he's destroying our country.
So, again, President Trump, who is dominating the Republican field, he is essentially the presumptive Republican nominee, who, by the way, a judge in Illinois, Cook County judge, who apparently deals with minor traffic violations, decided to take Trump off the ballot, and Trump immediately appealed that. So we'll watch that play out, even though early voting's been going on for like 2 weeks now, and a lot of people seemingly they had the option of voting for Trump. Whether they did or not, I don't know. But you have even the black community up in Chicago repeating some of the same stuff that Trump is saying about how these migrants aren't asylum seekers. They're, there's a criminal element throughout that string of people coming across the southern U.S. border, coming into the United States. But to President Biden, he attended an event talking about border security, but he talked more about a bill in Congress that he wanted to get passed to give money to Ukraine, give money to Israel, give money to states that are dealing with the migrant crisis right now. But he also talked about, hey, it would give more border security as well. Here's President Biden.
With this deal, we could hire 1,500 additional border security agents. 1,500 additional officers.
Oh, interesting to see there that he was actually standing next to Alejandro Mayorkas right here, where Mayorkas didn't he just get impeached by the U.S. House? Anyways, here back to the president.
500 additional officers, and between ports of entry, for the last 4 years, staffing has been roughly that, just flat. Agents working overtime, spending long hours patrolling the border, making major sacrifices. And I know it takes a big toll on them and their families. That's why in December I signed a bill finally getting Border Patrol agents what I've been pushed by and reminded by the congressman, overtime pay they deserve. Finally getting overtime pay. I mean, it's ridiculous it took this long. It was a long past time, and I was proud to do it, but we need to do more. It's time to step up. It's time to step up, provide them with significantly more personnel and capability.
Well, but what are those capabilities? Are those capabilities just to, essentially let them in the country and then give them that credit card and some kind of phone and then bus them to wherever or to, force Texas to have to deal with this? To when they ultimately have to send people to places like Chicago, for instance. More from President Biden.
Compromise legislation will also give me as president, or the next president, emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border between ports of entry when the numbers of immigrants and migrants, overwhelm the border, straining the Border Patrol's ability to process them.
But you also had in there apparently an idea of allowing 5,000 a week or something to that degree. And from my understanding, a president already has the executive authority to be able to declare that the border is a national security issue and to shut it down. I mean, isn't that kind of what Donald Trump did? That Biden came in and reversed. Just putting out there the criticism that I hear quite a bit about the incumbent president, Joe Biden. But again, he goes on to talk about what he sees in this deal that he wants to make happen.
Then we also need more cutting-edge inspection machines to detect and stop fentanyl from entering the United States of America. A year ago, I stood at the border in El Paso and I watched these machines at work. They were able to detect everything from fentanyl to weapons to people being smuggled in cargo containers. This compromise bill would provide an additional $424 million for 100 more of these machines and could save lives in the process.
I don't know what exactly that number was. Was it 4,343 million?
This bill would provide an additional $424 million.
Was it 424 million or 43? Anyways, okay, so you have that, and of course, the humanitarian impacts here are devastating. Human trafficking, the sex trafficking, the death that's happening for people who you don't pay the cartels, the drugs, and so on. And surely there's a lot of individuals who are truly seeking asylum, but are others seeking asylum? Governor J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, who's been very critical of Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas, Still says Illinois is a welcoming state. We're going to continue to welcome these individuals. And we've got free health care for individuals over the age of 42. And we've got taxpayer dollars helping with housing, state taxpayer dollars, and a whole host of other things, including helping these migrants with their asylum claims. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker at the LSC, which is a criminal justice legal support group. He made these comments yesterday as part of about a 10-minute presentation, but ultimately Governor Pritzker zeroing in on the legal help that Illinois taxpayers are providing what he calls asylum seekers.
Just a reminder, because there are people outside this room who may be watching who don't know this, but the asylum seekers that are here, they are legally in the United States. These are not undocumented people. They're here legally, and we should treat them as we do every resident of Illinois, but we should treat them as such, and that's been one of my missions. As part of these efforts, the Illinois Department of Human Services partnered with the United States Citizen and Immigration Services to stand up legal clinics that help eligible individuals apply for temporary protected status and work authorization. Over 1,000 volunteers, pro bono attorneys, and staff members from our community-based partners have made this possible.
So the governor talking about the Department of Human Services being tasked with helping with this, but also seeming to indicate that there's a lot of volunteers. I assume that is the case. You've got a lot of nonprofit groups that are helping out with things like hygiene products, especially in the face of news stories that indicate you've got the asylum seekers, as the governor calls them, not having enough diapers, for instance, for their children. But what is all this costing the taxpayers? If you go to the comptroller's website for asylum seekers, you'll see that the Illinois comptroller has some dollars laid out for how much has been spent since November of 2023, and they say $31.2 million has been spent. And you can see some of these totals here. In particular, the city of Chicago getting $11.6 million. $10 million going to the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. That'll be interesting to see where those dollars go. You've got Garter World Consulting Limited getting $1 million. And then you can just go through and look at all of these funds even more so and take some time with that. Just search Illinois Comptroller Asylum Seekers. So again, that's only the total from November 1st of 2023. We've been dealing with this since August of 2022. And some other places you can look for the actual costs on the comptroller's website. And I got to spend a lot more time on this just to delve deeper into it. But if you go to the comptroller's website for the checkbook, right? Just search Comptroller Illinois checkbook and you'll be able to find the payments portion. If you type in something like Immigration Project Inc., a company that deals with, a nonprofit that helps, a variety of things when it comes to the immigration question, it has here year to date for fiscal year 2024, $314,000. $314,000 if you can't see that. So I'll go ahead and click on Immigration Project Inc., and you'll see it pulls up a whole host of different expenditures. All right, so all coming from Human Services, the Department of Human Services, $20,000, $28,000, $12,000, $19,000, $33,000. It just, you can go through and see all of these payments and even look at the contracts in particular instances. So clearly, there's a lot of dollars going in various places. And if you're curious what the Immigration Project is, we'll go to their website and check that out, immigrationproject.org, and you can see, let me get this out of the way. We are the principal provider of immigration legal services in central and southern Illinois. So they provide access to immigration justice to the immigration community in downstate Illinois for over 25 years. And they'll take new clients, but obviously the governor's saying there's a lot of volunteers involved. Well, volunteers getting a lot of these dollars, at least when it comes to this particular organization. And I imagine that's just one particular organization. Because again, if we look at just some of the asylum seeker expenditures, you've got, the Garda World getting some of those dollars. You've got an alarm system getting some of those dollars, multi-aid alarm system And again, go through, click some of these contracts, maybe able to get more detail. Anyways, so that's kind of where we're at in the grand scheme of the ongoing migrant crisis. You know, the presidential contenders holding joint, or rather competing news conferences. Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about the immigration issue and how taxpayers are being impacted by this, and how the asylum seekers, as they call them, are getting services from the state. So interesting to see all that play out. It is Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you guys each and every weekday morning here with me. So stay tuned. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us here with Bishop on Air. All right. I again want to thank you very much. And if you are live with us, then stay tuned, because we'll get to your Discord calls in short order. I got to push that button there. I didn't realize I had it stuck on that. Anyways, that's what you get when you're dealing with all of these buttons in front of you. What are you going to do? All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bishop on Air.